Welcome again to my channel, Thrive, Don't Survive. We have Bradley here today. I would like to give him a chance to introduce himself because he probably will do it better than myself. So here's Bradley. Thank you for coming.
Hello. Well, thank you for having me on. First of all, I am Bradley Shepard. I am a doctor of chiropractic and certified functional medicine practitioner. I work out of New Mexico. I'm also online with some of my services. So I thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
That's amazing. I love that you're a functional medicine. It is hard to find for me a functional medicine practicer in here. I'm not sure if actually they're covered by insurance. Are you covered by insurance?
No, unfortunately, that's the problem is most insurance companies they won't cover anything that's preventative or wellness based. They're kind of a more reaction. You have to have a problem and then we'll pay for it.
I
And
see.
I think that's kind of backwards. I think that they would probably save more money actually investing in wellness rather than trying to cover all of the crisis. So I don't know.
That's so interesting. So now that we are in that topic, I would like to ask you, what's the difference between functional medicine and Western medicine, or even like Eastern holistic, or the other side? What are the differences between the three?
So, as far as what I've noticed, you go to your doctor, you have some sort of a symptom, and for every symptom that you have, they have a pill for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of their approach, okay, take this medicine, take this medicine, take this medicine, which is great because it does help reduce those symptoms. Functional medicine approach asks the question, okay, why are you having those symptoms? And let's get back to the root cause. And the why for a headache in one person may be very different from the why in another person. So with the conventional medicine, there's a couple of different options for medications to cover everybody. Whereas with functional medicine, we're looking at the person, we're trying to figure out what's going on with that person, and then making recommendations as far as that goes. And a lot of functional medicine practitioners are more likely to have more of a natural approach, again, trying to get back to the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll do some genetic testing, maybe we'll do some nutrition testing, whatever, hormone balancing, whatever it is. We want to get to the underlying cause, whether it's a toxicity, maybe there's some mold in your house, maybe you're just stressed, maybe you got some of that mental, emotional anxiety or stress that's causing problems in throughout your whole body with that mind body connection. So that's what functional medicine is. We look at the whole picture and try to really understand what the root cause is.
That's amazing. I couldn't have said that better. And it's so powerful because why would you say that this way of looking at it is preventative as opposed to reactive?
Yeah, well, I think it is in a lot of cases. In some cases, it is reactive. A lot of my patients are coming because they do have problems. And so, but they haven't been satisfied with the conventional medicine approach.
Mhm.
And so, we all know that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But once we kind of solve some of those problems with functional medicine, I like to use the fine tuning approach because once we have the big issues taken care of, well, now we can look at the wellness and the preventative things and, kind of fine tune our health. And we can go as far as you want in increasing your health. And if you're just happy with getting out of pain, great, we've done the job. If you want to continue on and say, okay, well, let's take this up to the next level, there's that option too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I myself have a functional doctor. I guess it's a group of doctors, but they're focused on nutrition. And in that nutrition, they do also, so they first do the intolerance tests, then the gut micro, like the bacteria in your gut, see if it's good or not. And then they do the Dutch hormonal test, I guess. And so they look and the genes. So you can do all of those in that. So I guess they're functional medicine as well, but they're mainly based in your nutrition. So would you say that that's kind of like how you do it as well, or is it different?
It's very, very similar, it sounds like. And nutrition really is the basis for everything. And the more I'm learning about functional medicine, the more research that I'm doing, the more it goes back to the gut health. And so, starting with the gut health is really, really key. I'm kind of more focused on the hormone balances. So once you have your gut balance, now let's work with you with the hormone balancing, and
Mm,
then where do you want to go from there? So yeah, a lot of it has to do with nutrition, but I've also seen a lot of it has to do with stress, everyday stress. And so if we're not looking at that, then we're missing a piece of the picture.
yes.
What are we eating? What are we breathing in? What are we drinking? What's in our water?
Mm-hmm.
Those all of those can add up too. So again, that's what functional medicine is all about. Let's look at everything.
That is amazing. Yeah, yeah. I do all those as well with them, the cortisol and then I have the aura ring for stress and
Yeah,
for sleep because sleep is so important too. Like I can see it right
huge.
now. I'm not sleeping in my house. I'm taking care of my aunt's pets and I'm so dysregulated. Like I'm usually super patient and super nice. And right now in my head, I'm like a toxic person because I'm not sleeping. So it's crazy how important that is, like your routine and how routine creatures we are. Like I'm out for
Yes.
a few days and it's like I can't be my best self, which is insane. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I like got into functional medicine. So for me, I was doing everything right. So I was doing the gluten-free. I knew already that I was lactose and gluten intolerant from before. Um, but I didn't do it as, every day forever. I was like, okay, on weekends, I'm gonna be a little more flex and I would work out 2 hours a day and I would do everything that was supposed to be what I needed to do. And I like all of my tests would come like horrible and I would not lose weight. And I would do this for years and it wouldn't work for me. So I started going to this program about hormonal eating. And then I learned that basically you your body does not have a break from being intolerant. So it's like you can't have gluten or lactose or even any cereal. Like I'm basically paleo diet right now because I can feel it right away. Like I get a little sound in my ear, I get bloated, I get brain fog. I'm super sensitive to food for some reason. So I need to eat as clean as I can, almost like carnivore. Like even because I'm also insulin resistant, which I'm not anymore because of doing this diets and this things with the functional medicine. I always have to work out. There's absolutely no way out of that for me with insulin resistance and all this. And that's when I started to see a difference. Now, I haven't done the hormonal part, and I think that that's where I'm a little stuck. I've been in the same for about a year because I haven't done that extra step because it's so expensive. Like
It
every
can be
yeah, every test is $500, $500, $400. So
that much.
yeah, it's not
Wow.
like that for you in there. For you.
Mine's around 266.
Oh wow. Yeah, for me
It's
everything.
fairly basic. I mean, it's not like the Dutch test.
Okay.
It's a little more basic, but
Okay.
yeah, I know the Dutch test can be pretty pricey.
Yeah, for me every like the intolerance was 500, the gut microbes were 500. So everything so so I'm waiting and I'm saving up for that step. And I think that's where I'm gonna find other things. And what they do to me is they give me supplements that aren't necessarily, I also have like candidiasis.
What was
um,
that?
Candida.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they give me everything that's usually natural, but they also believe in antibiotics. So is it the same for you? Is that like kind of like what you do as well with your clients, patients?
Well, since I'm not a medical doctor, I don't prescribe antibiotics.
Oh.
I think there's a place for them, especially if you have something like the SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth.
Mm,
I think there's a place for it. But my approach is, get with your medical doctor to see if you need any antibiotics. And then once you're done on the round of antibiotics, let's kind of reset your gut.
yes.
And
Because
I do a microbiome test that's only $130. So yeah, I try to find things because I know it can be expensive. And living here in New Mexico, it's a poor state. So I've had to try to find some things that are a
Mm.
lot less expensive, so people can afford it.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. That could happen here too, so we all have access to it. Because I feel like
Yes.
it changes everything. My partner also started doing it with me, and his life changed. He has asthma, and now he almost doesn't have asthma anymore. Like it almost completely went away because, as far as I understood, it's inflammation, asthma. So
Yeah.
it's insane that you can, and even autism, I've heard also that it could help autism, like the anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And so do you do also things like for the vagus nerve, like cold plunges and meditation and things like that to help your nervous system and then your cortisol levels drop or anything of that matter?
Honestly, that kind of that aspect of it is beyond my expertise. So
Okay.
I don't want to go into areas. I want to stay in my lane.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to, but I do know that the importance of meditation, yoga, praying, whatever it is, to kind of just to settle things down. There's huge value in that. So I'm not going to discredit it. I'm just not an expert in that.
Okay, cool. And what do you need to do to become a functional uh, medical practitioner?
Well, what I did was I was a doctor of chiropractic for many years before I discovered functional medicine. And most functional medicine education requires that sort of a degree, whether it's an MD, DC, DO, some sort of advanced degree, and to me that makes sense because we already have the medical background, the anatomy, the physiology.
Mhm.
We already have that background. And so for me, I was able to take a 100-hour certification course, go through it was pretty rigorous course, and then take all of the tests, learn about the research. And I love research. I like looking up the most current research too. So even some of the research when I was going to school was a little bit outdated because, let's be honest, research is outdated by the time you ever hear about it.
Exactly, yes.
But after that, I've got the certificate and a lot of it's experience too, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Um, you gotta get your feet wet and you learn so much in the first couple of years of doing it. Getting your feet wet is a completely different way of thinking,
Hmm.
and I think it's just wonderful and fantastic.
That's so cool. And so what are the tools that you used yourself from that you learned from functional medicine that basically changed your life for the better?
The biggest thing for me is getting a good health history, asking the tough questions. My intake forms are 20, 30 pages long. I
Wow.
mean, we're really, and so that's kind of a double-edged sword because my clients, they appreciate that I'm asking the question, but two, they're like, it's so long, and I get it. But that's the best way to start, is the more information that you can gather, the better. And then what I like to do is I like to actually gather their past medical records. I like
Mm-hmm.
to see what their other doctors are thinking about, because again, that's just more insight. And then the third tool is the testing. To me, that's a huge important thing. The reason I think that that's important is because that's the one thing that we can monitor.
Mm-hmm.
We can monitor symptoms, and I've had a lot of patients that go through the program, and they get a little frustrated, or they get a little, down because they're not feeling any better. But
Mm-hmm.
then once we get that lab report and say, okay, we're getting better, we're not to where we want to be. We're still at that threshold where your body's going to still produce the symptoms telling you that there's something wrong, but we're getting there. Once we hit that threshold, though, the symptoms start to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so monitoring that, I think that's the biggest tool.
Yeah, it's like hacking your body, knowing exactly what's wrong or what you can't process or what you can and how it's working and how to tweak it so that it works better and more efficiently. I remember one of my symptoms was I was always tired. I was always
Mhm.
tired. Like I 8 p.m. I was done. I could never do anything after 8 p.m. And now I'm like super energetic. So yeah, those are incredible cues for you to be like, okay, this is working.
Right.
And would you say that gluten and grains are inflammatory or it's not for everyone?
It's not for everyone, but for the people that it is, it can be awful for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what makes it inflammatory for some and not for others?
That is a great question, and I don't think we can answer that yet. I
Yeah.
think there needs to be a lot more research on that.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a genetic component. It could simply be the gut health, the leaky gut. I
Mm-hmm.
have heard of some case studies of people that once they fix their gut, now they can start eating some of those things. It's
Okay.
rare, I would think, but having a healthy gut can do a lot of. It can be very, very beneficial for you,
Yes.
even if you are gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant.
Mm-hmm.
Fixing that gut can really be beneficial in a lot of other ways.
Yes, leaky gut. I think I still have the leaky gut. It's way better, but it's still there. And it's hard to, that one is a hard one. But in my functional medicine group that I go to, they say that because America does everything for mass producing, they kind of changed the grain of gluten and like wheat and corn and all that to make it grow faster, and that makes it more inflammatory. And it's true that some people don't have the same inflammation as others, but in some ways it's still not great for them. It could be like brain fog or leaky skin or leaky any other thing. So what would you say to that?
I think that is definitely a component. With the, I'm on the fence with the genetically modified things because
Hmm.
in one area, I mean, we can feed a lot more people than we would be able to in the past.
Yeah,
But the downside is yeah, we don't necessarily know how it'll affect us,
right.
because we don't evolve that fast we make these genetic changes in our food, almost overnight. But we've been evolving for millions of years, and so we can't keep up. It would be
Exactly.
nice if we could, but we're not there yet.
I always say that about working out. I'm like, we're not evolved enough to live the sedentary life that we live in. And that's why so many people have so many issues. And once you start working out, like I can also say the opposite, where I started working out and it didn't do anything for me. But, all the other things, but I feel like we all should do some type of exercise daily, like it should be in our routines because of the same reason, right? Like we're made to hunt and run and go crazy, and we're not doing that anymore. We're sitting in a blue screen, most of us all day, and that's just not how we're evolved or not what we're evolved to do.
Right. And I'm going to make one caveat to this too. and I hope that this is beneficial for your audience. When we exercise, we should do it in short spurts.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, when we're out hunting, our ancestors, when they're out hunting, they use a lot of energy in very short periods of time, and then they rest.
Mm.
Or let's say they're getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. We're running for our lives, right? But then once the danger is past, we rest.
Yes.
However, we live in a society where everything is go, 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 go. So we have the high stress, the high cortisol levels, and we
Mm.
don't rest. We
Yes.
don't take the time to, okay, the danger's gone. Let's
Mm-hmm.
relax. And I think when we do the exercising, we should probably have the same approach.
Yes.
We're not made to run marathons. In
Mm.
fact, there's more marathon runners that have heart attacks every year than the sprinters do.
Exactly. Yes.
So short bursts, high energy, and then rest and relax and let
Mhm.
everything kind of settle down.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And I've also read that your genes, talking about your ancestors, can tell you what your ancestors or like what group of the ancestors you were and what they used to eat and what like hormones and like everything that you need to know
Mhm.
to your uh, I don't know, the way that you, for example, I don't know, if you were paleo and then paleolithical, or I don't know how you say that in English, then you'd eat a lot of meat. I'm just making this up. But, and then so I feel like I am that. So I'm a carnivore. So for me, it's better to have a carnivore diet. Is that true? Like, what would you say to that?
I actually somewhat disagree with that. I mean, there are more carnivore based diets, but
Mhm.
humans on the overall, we're omnivores.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, maybe we do better with meat, but we also need the roots and the vegetables and the seeds and the nuts and the fruits, because we're not just hunters, we're gatherers as well. And
Mhm.
so I kind of have that, from that evolutionary standpoint, we're
Yeah.
omnivores. Um, but yeah, there are some societies that have more meat in their diet, and there are other societies that have more vegetation in their diet. And
Okay.
so I think that those can be, valid to look at your ancestry. You're thinking about the 23andMe type of genetic testing, or
Yes.
the 3x4.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, those can give us some really good insights too as to how our bodies and what our genes are doing. But even my sister might have a slightly different genomic, you know,
Mm.
than
Then
than what I would. So again, that's another way to individualize any sort of your nutrition plans and things like that.
okay. And so what would the gene test tell you and how would you use that for your benefit?
So the gene test basically tells you which genes you have, which ones are active, and how familiar are you with the genetic testing?
Not very familiar.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, there's basically three different types of genes in every set, and depending on which ones are present and which ones are not, will determine how well you metabolize different nutrients.
Mm.
So the MTHFR uh, gene, for example, tells you how well, if you can or cannot um, methylize folate. So if you're taking a folic acid supplement and you have that MTHFR gene that inhibits that conversion, you can take as much folic acid that you want, and only a small portion of that will actually be converted into the useful form.
Mm.
Otherwise, you have to take the methylated form of folate, and that's already bioavailable for you. So that's just one way of how the genetic markers can work for you.
Mm, that's very interesting. And you use it for nutrition as well.
Yeah, you can use it for the nutrition. So, like I said, the MTHFR gene, if that's active, I don't want to be giving folic acid. I want to be giving uh, methyl tetrafolate.
Right. Okay. I'm not sure I know what that means in like a nutrition point of view.
I'm sorry, I got it again, but
No worries.
just that one little type of a supplement, that one little switch of the supplement will make it easier for you to use.
Okay, and so what do you use that supplement for?
Is for folic acid. So really, really important if in pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
You probably heard that, okay, when you're pregnant, you got to be taking folic acid, right?
Yeah,
Well,
right.
if you've got the gene, you're going to be having to take a lot of folic acid to get just that little bit of
Oh,
benefit.
gotcha.
Whereas if we give you the bioavailable form, the conversion, there's no need to convert. So you don't need to use that gene.
Okay.
So you have to worry about, that conversion. And so, the pregnancy will go better.
Okay.
That's just one minor uh, application of the genetic testing.
Got it.
And of course, there's some research out there that shows it's not necessarily necessary either. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
And
I
how
think
much?
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, no, go
I think
ahead.
the research is kind of on the fence with a lot of these things.
Mm. Okay. And those are cheaper over there too? The gene.
Um, I, I don't think so because we all have access to the same companies.
Mm.
You know, um, I, I know you can find a lot of the products that I like to recommend. I can find on Amazon. Amazon does have a higher price point than when I can get it for my clients. I like to use Standard Process a lot. I don't know if you've heard of that company or not. They are in Palmyra, Wisconsin. They have an certified organic regenerative farm,
Oh, wow.
and a
Yeah.
lot of their products contain a lot of those genetic um, genetic, non-GMO,
Okay.
non-pesticide, that organic farm. I've
Mm.
actually been to the farm and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I've seen their manufacturing facilities. It's a product that I know and trust and love, and I use it myself. And it's
Nice.
all whole food based, so to me
What's
that
that
makes
called
more
again?
sense. It's called Standard Process.
Under process. I've never heard of that before. I'm gonna
Yeah,
look it up. That's cool.
they're fantastic.
And so, how could you, for example, prevent, let's say, Alzheimer's, or how could you prevent, like, if you have a history of in your family that has cancer, or even insulin related, I don't know, what's it called when you can't process sugar?
The diabetes.
Diabetes, right. So how can you process or give me a few examples that are like big, like Alzheimer's or diabetes, or because most people here have issues with sugar, insulin, and all these things, and cancer and Alzheimer's.
Yeah. The diabetes is really, really easy, and it's really, really preventable. And all you have to do is, read the labels on your food and make sure you know what you're putting into your body. That's really what it comes down to. My rule of thumb is the more natural, the closest to the natural state that you can put in your mouth, any food that's in this most natural state is going to be the best for you.
Yeah.
Any time that there's processing, we're going to lose nutrients. We're going to add sugars. We're going to add things that you probably don't even know how to pronounce when you read it on the label.
Right.
Any packaged goods probably going to have something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but really, the diabetes comes down to your diet from
Mm-hmm.
an early age, and we're seeing diabetes in younger and younger people.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see kids with what used to be called adult onset diabetes.
Wow.
So we have that problem. The overweight problem is pretty much the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer, again, part of it may be genetic, but a part of it, you can lower the risk. You can lower the risk by, making sure you're not smoking, you're not drinking alcohol, and, fatty liver disease, that comes from, the sugars as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not managing your diet, eating high glycemic index foods, having the insulin pumped into your system, having the glucagon take that down, and we get that spike and down, that roller coaster. That's awful on our system. And that's what leads to diabetes, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, diabetes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the way we see it. A lot of that can be helped with diet. Once you have diabetes, though, it's very, very, very difficult, if not impossible in some people, to reverse it. So again, prevention is key. Alzheimer's disease, that's a good question. I mean, there's more and more research that's being done on that. And it's, a lot of it could be inflammation in the brain. So again, that can be caused by the gut health. That can be, improved with, again, eating healthy foods. The nutrition to me is a huge, huge part of it. It's not the fix all. It's not
Mhm.
going to guarantee, but it's going to decrease your risk for a lot of these diseases.
And do you think that when you do have cancer, if you eat like whole foods, anti-inflammatory diet, it will help?
I think it can help. Will it cure it? Probably not. And that's where modern medicine, conventional medicine really excels in
Yes,
things like that.
yes.
And, any sort of acute problems, they really excel. I think that a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today, though, when you apply the medical model, that acute medical model to a chronic condition, there's going to be a breakdown.
Mm, interesting. And what do you think? I don't know if you're familiar with this new wave of body positivity, where people are like, you're fine if you're bigger, there's no shame in it, it's okay. Like, do you think that a heavier person could be healthy?
It's going to be difficult.
Mm,
And, it's less about, in my opinion, it's less about body image, it's more about health.
right.
And we need to learn to separate those two.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, I think they're two separate issues, and we can't, you know, if you're overweight, it's just a medical fact that you're going to be at higher risk for heart disease, for diabetes, for joint problems.
Mm,
Okay. I see that a lot. I'm a chiropractor, so a lot of
mhm.
my, obese and overweight folks, they have horrible joint problems and it hurts. But when we can get them to lose some weight, even 10 pounds, they're like, oh, I feel so much better. My
Yeah.
knees aren't hurting anymore.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't think for me, it's not a body image issue at all. It's a health issue.
Yeah, I love that because I switched that around. I'm Venezuelan, so where I come from, it's all about your image, your body image. If you're pretty, if you're skinny, and then that makes you valuable, worthy. And when I switched that in my mind, as well as doing all these things too, because I wasn't feeling healthy. And so I switched from I want to be skinny to I want to be healthy. And I became healthy and I feel great, and all my tests come out great now. And even when I do the hormonal regular ones, they come out great. That's why I want to do the Dutch one, because I think there's something in there still. But yeah, I love the fact that you said that we need to separate them, because you can be any shape or form and be valuable. That's never going to change. You're going to be great and you're going to be pretty, you're going to be amazing and you're going to be a good person, but it doesn't negate the fact that you can be unhealthy and there you can be at risk, and it could bring some negative things to your life. So that's a great answer. That's my favorite answer
Yeah.
on the topic. I always ask that question.
And I'm gonna add a little bit onto it if you don't
Yeah, of
mind.
course.
You've heard of skinny fat, right?
Yeah,
Just because you're skinny and good looking and
yeah.
attractive doesn't mean you're healthy either.
Exactly, exactly. And a lot of people are like that too. My boyfriend is one of them. So he's a jujitsu black belt. And when I met him, he used to eat everything and be inflamed and had so many health issues. And one of my friends was like, he's perfect. He doesn't have anything. I'm like, no, no, he had so many issues. You have no idea. It doesn't mean anything that he looks like he looks, and it's all genetic because all his brothers and sisters and parents are all jacked and perfect, but they have a lot of issues. Actually, one of his sisters, which is unfortunate, she, after having COVID, she now has cancer. And she looks amazing and she has always worked out and she has always been healthy, but their diet, because in America, nobody teaches you that diet is so important. It's like the culture of comfort food. you need to use food as comfort and use all the greasy things and the fast food and all these things. Why would you think that that is?
Well, it's all I think it's all about the money.
Mm-hmm.
And these snack companies, they understand physiology. Okay, your brain craves sugar
Mm-hmm.
and your body craves salt.
Mm.
And when you eat these things, you get a chemical, a feel good chemical, dopamine, serotonin,
Yes.
as you get that reward.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when you open up a pack of donuts, you eat a donut, you feel better. You do, because you're getting that serotonin uplift, but
Exactly.
it doesn't last. So in some ways, these snack companies have hijacked your brain
Mm-hmm.
to almost to an addictive state.
I would say too an addictive state in my experience or in my opinion, because when I did go out of like the sugar and like the um that flour, the donuts, the everything that gives you that dopamine release, basically I had to go through withdrawal. I had, my mouth was dry. I had a headache. I was in a bad mood for days, at least 3 to 4 days before it went back to okay now. And then my palates too. My palates were so toxic with all that I couldn't taste anything that wasn't full of sugar and all of those components. And then when I detoxed it from all that, now when I taste something that's full on everything, I have a shock. It's like, whoa, this is so much. And like
Mhm.
little things I appreciate more, where well, maybe it's like with stevia instead of sugar, or whole foods with like fruit that tastes like very sweet to me, as opposed to before where it was like, this is not, it's not giving me that instant satisfaction. I'm just, I want something more, like a drug. And some people say that it's almost like cocaine, the sugar.
I've heard that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
But
the
again, I think it's very, very similar, probably in smaller doses. But yeah, we have a dependency. Well, we first of all we have a dependency on food, period.
yeah, yes.
But our brain gives us that reward for those high sugar foods,
Hmm.
and like we were talking about before, the food manufacturers, they use that to the best of their advantage, and they make a killing off it,
That's
literally,
sad.
figuratively.
I know. That's kind of sad because people should know. So at least we're putting it out there. People know that these companies are not good for you.
Yeah.
Get a functional practice medicine and just change it. And so what tools would you give the audience to go from surviving to thriving in functional medical medicine?
The first thing that I would recommend is there are so many people that drink sodas, sugary drinks, even diet sodas. And
Mm,
I would recommend, if you can, just stop that. That
mm,
by itself will make a huge difference. But, warranted, there may be some withdrawals for a few days.
mhm.
And replace it with water. Just replace it with water. If you need something to flavor your water, use a lemon, use a lime, use a cucumber,
Mm,
something like that. And that by itself will make a huge, huge difference. And so that's one thing that I would say. If that's our main takeaway today, stop with the sugary drinks, even fruit juice. Yeah, sorry, even fruit juice. If you want orange juice, squeeze an orange.
mhm. Exactly. And what do you say about electrolytes? Because I drink my water with electrolytes, especially if I'm going to work out. So it's either Celtic salt or I have um I don't remember the electrolyte that I use that has a flavor as well. What do you say about those? Are those healthy?
If you're sweating a lot,
Mm,
yes. If you're not sweating, don't bother.
Okay.
But hopefully you are sweating, and then yeah, you can replace those. I like to get my electrolytes from lemons, from cucumbers.
Okay.
Cucumbers actually have a very, very high water content, so
Mm,
you're getting the natural water.
nice.
In fact, cucumbers have a higher water content than watermelon does, and it sounds
Mm,
a little counterintuitive, but that's just the
mm,
way it is. But for adding a little bit of salt into your drinks is fine. What I would recommend not doing is using the Gatorades, or
oh, yeah.
even the zeros, because they're going to have either the sugars or the worse, the fake chemical sugar substitutes. I call it fake chemical sugar.
So,
You don't even know how to process that.
okay. And so why are the zero um drinks not good for you either?
Well, they're what you want to drink if you have diabetes.
Okay.
Okay, because you can't have sugar with diabetes, and
Yeah.
so you'll resort to a diet drink or
Okay.
a zero drink. But
Mhm.
again, if you look at the ingredients on the label, you're going to see the fake chemical sweeteners.
Mm.
You're not going to see stevia. You're not going to see monk fruit. You're not going to see the natural
So
sweeteners.
those are fine because those are the ones I use.
I, Preferably if you can get, again, the closest you can get to the natural state, the
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, the
Even the
ones that I
stevia
get are
nowadays,
stevia with nothing else, just
yeah,
stevia. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure about the granulated stevia because that's undergone some sort of processing.
Mm.
So if you get the stevia extract, I would think that that would probably be more healthy than the granulated stevia, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, of course, because the process. And same with the monk fruit, because monk fruit
Hmm.
also gets like the
Right,
sugar in the fruit, right? Yeah.
right.
Very interesting. Well,
The
those.
nice thing about monk fruit is you don't need very much of it. It's so powerful as a
Mhm.
sweetener
I
that
know.
you don't use very much of it.
Yeah. How do you sweeten your things? And do you have like, because for me, I make my own, brownies. I make my own because it's not about, restricting yourself and never having pleasure eating anymore. Yes, you shouldn't use food as an emotional blanket. Okay, but that's something different. But I am an advocate for just doing it yourself and having like nice, healthy snacks or sweets that are good for you in the long run,
Mhm.
as opposed to, what we were talking about. So, what are some things like that that you do for yourself?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, actually, it's okay to have it once in a while. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna harp on you for that. I do it myself, just every once in a while, get a little sweet, delicious, but disgusting treat. Uh, but fruit is nature's candy. So I like the fruits. I like cherries. I like peaches. I like
Mm.
apricots. I love cherries. Cherries is probably my favorite. Um, so blueberries, strawberries,
Nice.
you know,
Great.
that's nature's candy.
Love it. Yes. Natural sweets. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else that you want to add and tell our audiences to hack their bodies and be better?
No, I think that was the main thing. That would it be okay if I give them a free resource to learn more about how hormones might affect their chronic pain or their health?
Yes, 100%. Please do.
Okay, pain relief nutrition.com. Painreliefnutrition.com.
Great.
They they send in their email address and they will get access to my secrets. Okay.
Love that. I'll put it also under this, all the links for your social media, for your websites and your forums, whatever you want to share with us so that we can hack our health and live happier and thrive and be
Yes.
the best version of ourselves, like physically, not only emotionally, which is where I come.
Yes, yes. It all works together. I don't think that you can really separate out the one from the other because we are emotional beings and we are physical beings. So There's no way to separate them out.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming. This was an amazing conversation, and I am so happy that you shared all those hacks and tools with us. And I hope that I see you again soon, and maybe I'll try your services.
Yes, likewise. I'd be happy to help you out. Anything I can do, just let me know what I can do to help, and we'll get you the help that you need.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Bradley, for being here.
You're welcome, Veronica. Thank you for having me on. This really has been a fun time and a pleasure.
Amazing. Bye.
Bye bye.